Thank you all for coming today. So my name is Andy Offit. As some of you know, I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees. And this is a great day for Hebrew College. So as all of you know, last night that the board voted in our next president of Hebrew College, Sharon Cohen Anisfeld. Also, the vote was unanimous among the board. So this was the culmination of a 7-month extensive search process. We considered some applicants, but we're 110% convinced that Sharon was the perfect candidate to lead our institution. In the words of one of our committee members, Sharon has so far exceeded my any dream I had as leader of our rabbinical school. I cannot even imagine how awesome she'll be running the entire college. So, additionally, I have to say I'm both honored and a little embarrassed to say that in the 97-year history of Hebrew College, this is the first woman president. So, from the board, we are energized, we are excited, and we're thrilled with our selection, and that Sharon has accepted our offer to a lead. You have accepted that. So many of you know Sharon better than I do, but I will say one of my true pleasures over the last several months as board chair has been working with Sharon and getting to know her. In these few months, I've learned so much from her never-ending caring and wisdom. So how many of you have gotten the 5:30 a.m. email? And then how many of you have received both those emails in the same 24 hours? So I have. So as you know, that Sharon works tirelessly. That's because of one reason, and that's that she loves Hebrew College. That Sharon is smart and passionate and a force in the Jewish world, and frankly, she could work anywhere she wants to. But she's chosen to be here at Hebrew College, and now she's chosen to be our president. And we're all the better for it. So thank you, Sharon, for what you've done already and for what you're about to do. And so to this, we have much work in front of us. So I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Board of Directors to tell our community that we are totally behind you. We will work hard as we can to support you as we move forward together. And so some of you know that I'm a football guy, and so Sharon, you are our Bill Belichick. So Sharon will come up here in a minute, but I asked Danny to speak first. And I will say we'll be formally honoring Danny later this year, but I just want to share one thought today. And if there's one measure of the success of a leader, it's that after their work is done, they leave the institution in better shape than when they found it. And Danny, you have done this in spades. And Hebrew College today is bigger, better, stronger than when you arrived 10 years ago. And you're handing us a true gift, and we'll work hard to preserve and prosper. And I can only hope for myself that when I leave, that I follow your model and leave the institution in better shape than when I arrived. So we did not work together long, but in the short time, I really have appreciated our relationship and friendship. I know you'll always be close to this institution, and I thank you for that as well. So I'd love you to come up and say a few words.
I would have said she's the Brady, but okay. She's a lot better looking. So, over a year ago, I spoke to a group of our trustees and friends and supporters in the Hebrew College Sukkah. And this was well before I announced to the board that my decision to step down from the presidency at the end of my 10th year. But at that gathering, I expressed my hope to these trustees and donors that the next president of Hebrew College would be a woman. Shortly after my comment in the sukkah, Sharon came up to me and asked if I had someone specific in mind. And I said no, I was just making a general statement to encourage the breaking of the glass ceiling. Well, to be honest, that was only partially true. After nearly 10 years of working closely with Sharon, I can say with confidence that Hebrew College will be in good hands. And perhaps more importantly, Hebrew College will have a president with an open heart, a deep soul, and highly developed leadership skills. Sharon's vision for a vibrant, innovative, and spiritually creative Jewish community, her Ahavat Yisrael and Ahavat Medinat Yisrael, her love for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel, her passion for the Hebrew language and its literature, her devotion to high-quality Jewish learning, and her keen sense of justice and sensitivity to human suffering will combine to make her an exceptional president of Hebrew College. And if I can offer one brief Devar Torah in relationship to her unique qualities, there's a famous discussion many of you know in the Talmud Kiddushin about whether Talmud Gadol, whether learning is greater, or Ma'aseh Gadol, or is action greater. And the end of that discussion, at least the first part of that discussion, is the Talmud Gadol, Talmud Mevi Lidei Ma'aseh. Learning is greater because it leads to, it generates good action. So I'd like to suggest that the relationship being described by the Talmud there is not just unidirectional, meaning it's not just about learning, producing action, but it's something more in the education world. We have a concept developed by Lee Shulman called pedagogic content knowledge, which means that a teacher has a certain unique kind of knowledge because the content that they know is actually transformed by the act and nature of their teaching. So when they're teaching content and they're thinking about how to teach it to various students, that actually creates a different kind of knowing. They know that content differently than other people who don't teach it that way. So I'd like to suggest that what it means when Talmud, when learning generates action, is not only that there's a kind of cause and effect or outcome, but rather, if one studies, as I think Sharon embodies, with an awareness that the study is there and produces just action, that actually transforms the nature of the study. The content that you are teaching is actually changed by the fact that you are looking at that content, teaching that content, living that content out in relationship to the just action that you hope flows from it. And I think in many ways that is very much at the heart of Sharon's learning, her intellectual acumen and activity. And I think in terms of what is so attractive about Sharon as a thinker and as a teacher is that sense that the learning has embedded in it already that outcome, that result of just action. So in conclusion, I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish as a community during these past years, and Sharon has been an important part and has played an important role in the success that we've had. I have to admit that during much of my tenure, we've had to contend with persistent storm clouds that have hovered over the college in varying degrees of dark intensity, but the skies have been clearing. And I think a bright future is on the horizon, and I think Sharon is very much going to lead us into that dawn and that bright sun. Now, I'm going to quote a great German poet, Schiller. I don't usually do this, nor do I want to suggest that I'm a German poet aficionado. I'm not. Just to show you how nerdy some of us are, I actually got to this quote in a footnote on an article about the inaugural address by Rabbi Azriel Hildesheimer, who was the founder of a great Orthodox Rabbinical Seminary in Berlin in 1873. So there's a translation and a analysis of his inaugural speech when he opens this new seminary in Berlin, and he makes reference to, although he does not quote, this passage from a poem from the great German poet Schiller, and it goes like this: "He who strives after a great career burns to do something well. The best of his powers with all their weight on the smallest details concentrate." So I don't know how many of you have heard Sharon say this, but I've heard it many, many times. She'll say, "I know this is a really small detail," but, and then she goes on to, present this as something that we should be focusing on, and it's often true. And I am comforted by the fact that Sharon is not just a big picture thinker and someone who has vision. She has that, but she also is greatly attentive to the details about people, details about the curriculum and the learning, the details about how the institution in fact impacts the Jewish community and the community more broadly. So Sharon, you are the right person at this right time, and I'm so excited for you and for the college as you take on this important mantle of leadership, a mantle you have earned and rightfully deserve. Chizki, be strong and courageous as you go mechayil el chayil, from strength to strength. Mazal.
So some of you know that this summer I spent a lot of time with an article that our colleague and teacher Lehmann shared with me. I think he's shared it with some of you students as well. It's an article called "The Gift Must Always Move" by the translator and poet Louis Hyde. And it's about gratitude. It's about cultures of gratitude. And it's about living with an awareness of the gifts that we've received and are constantly receiving, and the generosity that flows from that awareness. To know how much one has been given by other people and by the source of all life is to long to give something in return. In that article, Hyde writes that we are lightened and enlivened when we know that, quote, "our gifts rise from pools we cannot fathom." So I am lightened and enlivened today. I'm both tremendously honored by this opportunity and profoundly sobered by the responsibility to try to wisely lead an institution that I care so deeply about, and to pursue a mission that I believe in so passionately. In spite of what Danny said about the clouds having cleared and I'm thinking of the sunlit uplands that Van referred to the other day, there are obviously many real challenges that lie ahead of us. But I'm lightened and enlivened by the awareness that we, all of us here, are drawing on a very, very deep reservoir of blessing, of Torah, of community and friendship, of devotion and love and hard work. Through this search process over the last several months, I have become even more deeply aware of the commitment and dedication of so many people in this room, in this building, and outside of this building, who care passionately time, their energy, their financial resources, their inner resources to help this college thrive and grow. We here in this room are standing within vast concentric circles of generosity and creativity and vision and, again, sheer hard work and effort and energy. Speaking of all that, I have to just start by saying how profoundly grateful I am to Danny for his leadership over these last 10 years, literally making it possible for us to be standing here today. There were moments under those dark clouds when our survival was in doubt. And one of the things I'm holding with sort of an even greater consciousness right at this moment is the way, Danny, in which you bore the weight of that knowledge with an ever-renewing well of creativity and vision and energy, and we're not fake. So which is also so important to you. On a personal note, I can't let this moment go by without also expressing my gratitude to my teacher for the Torah you've brought into the world and into my life and into so many of our lives. For your vision in creating this rabbinical school, which has become, in so many ways, such an important and life-giving, intellectual, spiritual, professional for me and for so many others. And also for your trust in me as a and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude to Andy Offit. You don't have to go, but are you okay? Really, Andy has stepped up to lead the board at this critical time of transition and to help shepherd and sustain the institution as we prepare, I don't know if everybody knows this, as we prepare to celebrate our centennial anniversary in 3 years. We're 3 years away, so I want everybody to wait, horizon is an important thing. And so I'm very aware and very conscious of, that's where we're heading, is to have a big celebration and celebrating that moment, looking towards the next 100 years. So I could not feel luckier to be working with Andy and the rest of the board in this sacred task.
I won't be chair for the next 100 years.
Nor will I. I didn't commit to 100. So to everyone here, to all of you who make this place happen, faculty and staff and students and some alumni, which is amazing that you're here, and board members and donors and friends, to all of you who tend to it and fill it with life, I want to offer this image. I recently returned to a beautiful and haunting poem by the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai. It's a poem called Kotel HaPtzatza, or The Diameter of the Bomb, in which he talks about the ways in which a single explosion, a single act of violence, causes devastation far beyond the damage done to those in immediate proximity of the blast. In the poem, he writes, I'll just quote a few lines, "The diameter of the bomb was 30 centimeters, and the diameter of its effective range about 7 meters, with 4 dead and 11 wounded, and around these, in a larger circle of pain and time, 2 hospitals hospitals are scattered, and one graveyard. But the young woman who was buried in the city she came from, at a distance of more than 100 kilometers, enlarges the circle considerably. And the solitary man mourning her death at the distant shores of a country far across the sea includes the entire world in the circle. We all know this to be true. But what we sometimes forget, and what we need to remember, especially at a time when we're so acutely aware of the pain and violence in the world around us, is that the same is true of every act of goodness, every act of generosity, compassion, and connection. The ripples that extend from each of those acts, the ripples that extend from the work that we do here, from the teaching and learning that happens here, from the prayer and music and creativity, from the conversations and questioning and the searching that happens here, those ripples also know no bounds. We are affecting countless people and enriching communities and individuals we're not even aware of. In Boston, around the country, and around the world. If you've seen, as I hope you have, Andy's beautiful letter, The Power of Numbers, that has just gone out as part of our annual campaign this year, that's what he's talking about, those ripples. To go back to the words of Louis Hyde that I started with, our gifts rise from pools we cannot fathom, and I would add, their waters also flow into and nourish places we cannot imagine. So I am, as I said, I'm feeling tremendously honored by this opportunity and sobered by the responsibility, and just very, very excited and energized about the work that lies ahead. I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. And I'm sure that there are lots of questions on people's minds, and there will be more as we move forward. We'll be scheduling a lot more opportunities for conversation. For now, I do want to let you know, for those of you who are wondering about this piece, that we're working on the leadership plan for the Rabbinical School, and we'll have more word about that in the weeks ahead. But in the meantime, please know that my door is open to each and every one of you. We will have to pace ourselves. But really, I want to hear from you, and I want to be in conversation as we shape this future together here. So may we all be lightened and enlivened, and may we go from higher to higher, may we go from strength to strength. And an invitation, although Marilyn will kill me.
Yes, I will.
Some of those concentric circles we're going to be celebrating on Saturday night. We're going to be celebrating Saturday night at Madlik, which is a celebration specifically and especially of the impact of the work of the alumni and students of the Rabbinical School over these last many years in the greater Boston community and beyond. We are above capacity. We're at last I heard, we're at about 230 people registered, which is awesome. It's awesome, isn't it? Good.
They're not all going as parents, don't worry.
Right. standing room, and so I know lots of people are already planning to be there. Everybody's really welcome. We are, we're going to have overflow space in the atrium, and it'll be an FHB situation.
Yes.
A family holdback situation, which is sort of staff and students to be aware, unless you have a particular role, maybe, go to the seats and tables in the atrium, so we make sure that all of our guests have space and Barrington itself, but everybody will be able to hear and participate, and it should be a wonderful celebration. And, and thank you especially